Look who is here. It's our good friend Mike Jankins as we're talking about some things that make some folks uncomfortable, but that's the reason he's here, to try to put you at ease a little bit, talking about bankruptcy. But you want to talk about not being at ease, the next subject we're going to dive into, Mike, is one that really makes people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about what happens during a bankruptcy and how you get one put together. Well, now we're going to talk today about once you file your bankruptcy, what happens next. And people call and go, do I have to go to court? And it's not really going to court, but there is a legal proceeding that everybody that files has to attend. It's part of the process. And so it's not going to the courthouses, although unfortunately some of my clients seem to end up there instead of the right place. But,
so what's this called then?
The actual legal proceeding is called the meeting of the creditors, and the purpose of it is, at least in part, just like it sounds, the people that you owe money to have a right to come and ask you questions if they want to. Fortunately, that isn't a common occurrence. It's usually just a room full of the attorneys with their clients. And so it's
meeting of the creditors. It sounds like a movie title, doesn't it? Like a subtitle for a movie, yeah.
Starring you.
No, I don't think so.
Is this like a deposition, or what can we relate this to that people might be familiar with?
I don't know if it's anything that it would be similar to. I mean, people all congregate in one big room. The attorneys.
And they take a chair and put you in the chair in the middle, and you sit in the middle of the room. Is that right?
The attorneys sit with their clients in a waiting area waiting. The trustee, he's the person that conducts these proceedings. It's not a judge. It's really just a private attorney that is hired by the government to conduct these matters. And so they conduct it. They sit up at a table at the front of the room. The matters are recorded, and then you wait your turn, and then they'll call each person off, and then they go up, show their identification, and then sit down at the table with their lawyer, and they're asked a few questions. And so it's a very important proceeding. When you come to this proceeding, you have to bring identification. It's very important to make sure that the person that's there is really the person that filed this case.
Okay.
And you have to bring your Social Security card, because they want to make certain that the Social Security number that was identified on the proceedings is you. There have been mistakes where the Social Security number that was put on the proceedings doesn't match the Social Security card, and most of the time it's a typo. And it can be a bad deal if there's a typo, because
what could happen then?
Then a wrong Social Security number appears in the proceedings. We've had it happen. It's unfortunate, and so we had a case one time where there was a typo. We ask our clients when we're signing the papers, there's an actual sheet that says, is this your Social Security number? Make sure and verify this is the correct one. Oh yeah, it's the right one. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. They just go, yeah, it's the right one.
They just signed it.
They just signed it. And so then within a week of the filing, we get a phone call from a very irate person in South Dakota. You filed some bankruptcy, it had my Social Security number on it, and it's ruining my credit. All my credit card companies called me and are closing my credit card accounts. And because the wrong number could belong to somebody else.
Right.
And so we took immediate steps to file a correction, of course, and then we notified all the credit bureaus of the error, and they promptly fixed it, and everything was fine. But it's really important, and that's why they check the Social Security cards at the proceeding to make sure that number's right. There was a time when I first started in practice, they didn't do that, and I don't know, it might have been about 10 years into it, they made this new rule, which, as things are these days with identity theft and everything, is obviously a very good rule.
Right.
So they check that, and you have to bring a picture ID. Again, they want to make sure you're the person that filed and that you're not having someone else show up in these proceedings.
So what all comes out of these meetings? What do they call it? The bankruptcy meeting of the creditors. What comes out of this?
Well, the purpose of it, besides the creditors being able to come ask questions about something they're wondering about, is that the trustee that runs this, it's his job to see if there's any money that can come out of your assets that you've got. The things that you have that are not protected, and we've discussed that in previous segments, those can be sold, or the trustee can ask you if you want to pay some money to keep it, because you're going to be usually the most interested buyer if it means something to you. And so that money that ends up coming into the court gets divided up among all the creditors, and often it's really not a lot of money. I mean, a couple $1,000s divided between $50,000 of creditors isn't really getting anybody a bunch of money, but I guess it's the principle of things.
Now, will that bill be gone then? That what you owe, will that be?
Yeah, the debt's gone.
The
yeah,
debt is gone?
Debt's gone.
Okay.
Every once in a while, there'll be a nice little plum of an asset that comes through somehow that ends up being fairly significant. If someone ended up having an inheritance that fell within that 6-month period, it's happened in clients of mine where all of a sudden $30,000 comes into the case that was unexpected. So the creditors are happy, the trustees real happy. They get kind of a commission off of the money that they administer and collect. So that's one of the real important things of these proceedings, is to find out, is there money that they can disperse out to the creditors? It's also important because most of the questions that are asked in these proceedings are questions that have already been answered. In the papers that we had filed for our clients and all the questions that are in there, these questions have already been answered. But sometimes they're not answered right the first time, and the trustee's giving people a chance on these very important questions to get it right the second time if they weren't clear when they were first doing it, or they forgot something. They get a chance to go, you know what, I think I was wrong there, and I want to fix my answer, because these questions are all under oath. These matters and proceedings are tape recorded.
Okay, so this gives you a chance to correct some things that may not have been 100% the first time.
Right, at the beginning of the proceedings, at each hour, the trustee makes an announcement to everybody in the room that these proceedings are taped and they're under oath, and they're subject to penalty of federal perjury charges, and that if you're convicted, the fine can be up to $500,000 and 5 years in the federal hotel penitentiary.
And that kind of straightens things out, I'm sure. All right.
Well,
now,
it helps to have someone on your side.
Yeah, obviously very complicated, and that's the reason that someone like you needs to get involved. If somebody has a situation like this is how you get a hold of Mike. Iowa-bankruptcylaw.com is the website. That's probably the easiest one, 255-1855, if you want to grab your phone and get a hold of him. So going to court, bankruptcy-wise, really isn't going to court. It's the meeting of the creditors.
That's right.
That's right. So you learned something here this morning. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it so much.